Is your mouthwash causing poor health? We are talking today about holistic oral health benefits in part 2 of our summer self-care series. In the summer self-care series, we are going through physical self-care that is going to reap multiple overall health benefits. And so you will want to grab a sticky note for today's episode as we are talking about oral health. And maybe you will learn a few new and unique ways to keep your oral microbiome, yes, we have an oral microbiome, healthy and well, and discover amazing health benefits from doing these simple things. As a Christian working woman over 40, are you struggling with consistently low energy and tiredness, but sick of the confusing midlife info out there? Are you tired of that menopausal belly bloat and worried you will always have that annoying brain fog feeling? Been there. But right here is where you get clarity and hope through biblical and holistic health solutions. Hi, I'm Michelle, holistic health coach and fellow midlifer. As the heartbeat of your home, decide right now in this season to partner with God with discipline, intentionality, and commitment to changing your life at midlife. If you're ready to stop chasing the world's way of health and be your healthiest whole self with more energy and less brain fog than you have had in a while, then you're in the right place. Grab your herbal tea, Bible, notebook, and pen, and let's treasure your wellness. Are kicking off our summer self-care series. Well, we actually already kicked it off last week, and so if you missed that, go on back to the first part that we did. Is it selfish to love and care for yourself? Go back and listen or watch. But for the next 5 weeks, we are going through a summer self-care series where you can show yourself some physical self-care that reaps multiple overall health benefits. And today I will be sharing 1 or 2 tips that are simple, guys, simple, that you can do right away to help your body really in so many ways, including gently detoxing and getting those harmful toxins out of your body. Today we are addressing specifically oral health, and so you might want to grab a sticky note for that one. This is going to be, I hope, really helpful and informative, but even interesting as well. So, is your mouthwash causing poor health? And we're talking very specifically about holistic oral health benefits. So we're starting off with the mouth, right? And so this is going to be really helpful. By these things that I am using, sharing with you, I'm talking about oil pulling and I am talking about tongue scraping. I want to talk specifically about oil pulling first because it may be something you've never heard of. It may be something that you've seen, but you're not really sure what to do about it, how it works. Does it even work? Is it just another fad? Is it just, kind of crazy? Like, what is it? So I can assure you, and I'm going to go into more details with reading some information from some experts, some oral health experts, dentists, and other things. But I want to tell you that this really does work. You have to do all this for yourself, though. You have to decide if you want to do this for yourself. It's completely okay if you don't want to. However, you're here because you want to be your own best advocate for your health, and you want to learn how to take care of yourself better in a way that is more natural and holistic, without all the chemicals and all of that. And you want to regain your energy and you want to reduce your foggy thinking. So I think this will be really helpful for you. I'm going to start with a quote from a functional dentist. His name is Dr. Mark Burheny. I hope I said that right. Probably didn't. But he says anyone who is using mouthwash, and that is 2/3 of Americans, should think about giving up that habit and never going back again. I love that quote because I never really got into the whole mouthwash thing. I think probably in my 30s, I went through a stint But frankly, it was just annoying. It was expensive and it burned and I didn't like it. So why, if something is so good for me, does it hurt? I don't know. So I didn't really do that. That wasn't something that I did long term at all, and have not done in well over 20 years, if not more. So he goes on to say they are destroying their oral microbiome, and that feeds and seeds the gut microbiome. Okay, I am not going to take up time today to talk about the microbiome, but you have a microbiome in your mouth. And more research is coming out about that. And it's incredibly fascinating because you may know you have a gut microbiome. You may have even heard the expression, your gut is your second brain. And again, the body's brilliantly created, so everything's communicating to each other, right? All of our organs and, our body was so designed to work the way it does and the way it should if we fuel it properly, if we treat it properly. And so that's so amazing all by itself. But then to find out that, you have an oral microbiome, that's crazy, right? So that may be the first time you heard that. And it's exciting. It's so exciting because once we know something, we tend to want to keep learning, and we tend to want to share that information. So yeah, share. But he says that they are destroying the microbiome in their mouth. Okay, so think about how often you use mouthwash, morning and night probably, right? If you use it. The average person probably does it morning and night. And he goes on to talk about a study that was in Scientific Reports in 2020. Okay, so they did a study where they used people that were given a placebo mouthwash in one group, and they were giving a mouthwash that had these chemicals in it, like traditional mouthwash, chlorhexidine mouthwash specifically, in another group. And they did this for 7 days so that they could see how they impacted different health markers. So what they found was that the chlorhexidine mouthwash changed the makeup of the oral microbiome community and shifted the saliva pH. So that was increasing glucose while lowering saliva and plasma nitrate concentrations. Now, nitrate has been associated with inhibiting the growth of periodontal bacteria. Okay, and then he goes on to say the study also noted a trend of higher blood pressure, which is really interesting to me, after 7 days of using this mouthwash. So if you have high blood pressure, consider, are you using mouthwash every day? So this functional dentist goes on to say, if someone asked me if you could wish a New Year's resolution for everyone, it would be very simple. Ditch the mouthwash. He said, do tongue scraping, flossing, and of course, eating well. That's enough. These disinfecting bacterial mouthwashes, bactericidal mouthwashes are a mistake in so many ways. Okay, so good. I want to add something though. The chemicals and the sweeteners in mouthwash and toothpaste can cause foggy thinking and fatigue. So if you have been dealing with those two things specifically, don't think that this episode isn't for you because you don't have high blood pressure or something more serious. And really, I hate to even say that because chronic fatigue and chronic brain fog leads to more serious health issues. Trust me on this. So it's important that you are getting help and support for them if you are struggling with them. So guys, this is why we get into the details to have optimal health in the Midlife Health Makeover, because this is where you're following my midlife mastering method. And because these details are creating your health, they're creating your longevity, your ability to be around in good health for your grandkids. So these details are important. So I want to go on to an article from the NIH, and this is the National Institute of Health. And there's been some things in the last 4 years where the CDC and NIH have not necessarily been 100% open and honest and all of that, but I'm not going to get into that today. But I found this article in 2017 really interesting. It's a pretty long article, but I want to just get out the nuggets here for you. Dental diseases have detrimental effects on the functionality and quality of life of individuals. Dental diseases. In addition, a strong relationship has been established between various oral and systemic diseases. In fact, the prevention and treatment of dental and periodontal disease have been shown to reduce the risk of diabetes and heart disease significantly. This goes beyond the role of oral health as a means to identify early manifestations of systemic diseases in the oral cavity. It highlights the necessity of maintaining an optimal oral hygiene to significantly modify the risk factors for serious systemic diseases. The use of oil pulling can be frequently found in ancient medical texts and is supported by recent studies for its efficacy and long-term use for maintaining and improving oral health. Okay, and so that's where we're talking about oil pulling. So oil pulling is really simple. I'm going to go into how to do it, how long to do it, but it basically, you're swishing the oil. You're putting a spoon of oil in your mouth. And it sounds so gross, guys, right? But it's really, really beneficial. You're putting that in your mouth, and it's similar to a mouthwash, right? It's similar to these oral rinses that are on the market. That is a big, big, big business, right? So it's been used for centuries for the treatment and prevention of various oral and systemic diseases. And this is all from the NIH, guys, still. It says to use edible oils derived from either sunflower, sesame, and coconut. Okay, this is where I differ. This is where I disagree. You don't want seed oils in your cooking, in your nutrition. You don't want seed oils. Sesame would be the preferred one. I would not use sunflower seed oil, but my favorite is coconut oil. And I specifically use a cold press unrefined coconut oil. This is the one that I'm using currently. And it's so much cheaper if you think about it. I mean, if you get a jar just for oil pulling, which I used to, but I really don't anymore. I used to just keep it in the bathroom, but I go in seasons, where I'm oil pulling, and because frankly, if you're doing it every day, like, it kind of gets old, right? You'll understand what I mean in a minute when I go into the details. But so you don't have to have two separate jars, one for cooking, one for oil pulling. You don't have to. So let me continue reading what the NIH is saying. The process of oil swishing or oil pulling is believed to cure or control. Now, I'm really careful about saying a word like cure, but the NIH said the process of oil swishing is believed to cure or control 30 different types of systemic diseases, including headaches, migraine, and chronic diseases such as asthma and diabetes. Wow. And you can go down a rabbit trail if you want to go to the NIH website, and they've got all of these other links that you can go down your rabbit trail. It goes on to say the effects of oil pulling on oral health as an adjunct to conventional oral hygiene measures has been exemplary. Scientific evidence suggests that oil pulling therapy may reduce the total oral bacterial count and reduce plaque and gingivitis scores. Okay, that's pretty powerful. I want to, they show a table. If you go to their site and you click this in, they'll show a table that is showing you mouthwash versus oil pulling. And I just felt it was important enough to talk about it real quick. So it's talking about oil pulling versus the chlorhexidine mouthwashes. So is it natural? Oil pulling is yes, natural. Mouthwash is not. Are there side effects? Yes to mouthwash, no to oil pulling. Is there bacterial resistance? Yes to mouthwash, no to oil pulling. Is it cost effective? Not really. How expensive are those mouthwashes? But yes to oil pulling. Is it easily available? Not. They say no for mouthwash, yes for oil pulling. Is there a prescription needed? Sometimes yes for a mouthwash, no for oil pulling. Is it a contraindicator in pregnancy? Yes, some mouthwashes are. No for oil pulling. Is it available in rural areas? It might be. They say no, maybe. Yes to the oil. Is there an unpleasant taste? Yes to mouthwash, no to the coconut oil. But I will say some people have a texture issue, and that can be unpleasant. That can be hard to kind of get past. Is it time consuming? No to mouthwash, yes to oil pulling. And I'll get into that in a minute. And then is it contraindicated in other diseases? Yes to mouthwash, which, by the way, you may never have heard of that before. If you have a chronic disease and you're on medication, your doctor may have never said don't use mouthwash. And that's a whole other, you got to really go down that rabbit trail to find out what's, your specific issue is and what's in the mouthwash. But oil pulling is completely safe. So I just wanted to share all that because I thought that was really, really fascinating. And, I drink a lot of tea. I drink a lot of hot tea. It's not black tea, it's herbal tea. So that helps a lot with reducing the amount of staining. But coffee and tea stains our teeth and it can dull our teeth. And this is really helpful in removing some staining. So now we're going to get into how to oil pull. So this might be where you want your sticky note. So you take a small amount. I just, do a little spoon and just take a small amount. You can do like a half a teaspoon to a tablespoon. I would start small. You got to get used to this because you're holding it in your mouth for 15 minutes minimum. So you take a spoon, put it in your mouth, half a teaspoon to a tablespoon, and then you just swish it. You know how to swish. You're just swishing it. Now, what I do is I do it first thing in the morning. They recommend that you do it on an empty stomach, that you haven't eaten or drinking anything before you do it. So I'll just do it in the morning and get in the shower. And so I'm just swishing while I'm doing my shower. So it's not a big deal. It's not like, because if you're watching the clock, if you're doing something that's not really fun and you're watching the clock, it's going to make time go faster. It's going to make time go slower. You're not going to enjoy it. And more than likely, you'll just stop after a while. But if you're doing something else while you're doing the oil pulling, it's just so much easier. Sometimes I will pop it in my mouth and go about and set up the coffee and, do the things that I need to do around the house before, it just depends on what my morning routine is. So, but I'm doing other things. I'm never just oil pulling and just sitting there like, okay, time's up. I've tried reading while I do it. It just doesn't work for me. But so I go in the shower or I putter around the kitchen. So 15 minutes is your minimum amount. People will go up to 30. Start at 10, okay? Start at 10. I think the longest I've done was 20 minutes because I got things to do, So this is really important though, guys. Do not swallow when you're done. Don't swallow any of it. You are swallowing harmful toxins and you want to spit that out. Do not spit it out in your sink. You will clog your pipes. So you spit it out in the trash, and I usually just take a piece of toilet paper and wipe my mouth, or a tissue and wipe my mouth, or a washcloth and wipe my mouth afterwards, and then I rinse. So you're rinsing your mouth out with water, and then you go into your brushing and your flossing afterwards, okay? Now, it's really, really easy. The second thing that I wanted to talk about, and the dentist alluded to this, is tongue scraping. So important, so important. They sell these little tongue scrapers right next to the toothbrushes. So your mouth is so much dirtier than you probably think it is. And I know that I'm not trying to be rude, but our mouths are dirty. And especially if we are not we have not created healthy oral hygiene habits. Tongue scraping, you're going to be amazed at how much junk you get off your tongue when you start scraping. So first thing in the morning, and yes, I do this before I oil pull, you scrape your tongue. And if you want to really, see how bad it can be, scrape after you drink coffee, and you're getting all that coffee off your tongue. So, it's a good idea to brush after you drink coffee if you're able to, anyway, or like rinse your mouth out really well with water. But just because it's, it stains, but it's so important, again, for the oral microbiome to scrape that junk off your tongue, because you're just swallowing it all. And I have a special little test that I do with my clients to see how their gut is, because as he alluded to, the functional dentist alluded to, the oral microbiome affects the gut microbiome. And so we want to see how the gut microbiome is doing. So there's a little easy spit test that we do. Scraping your tongue is going to help remove bacteria that's on your tongue, because you don't want to swallow that down. So we shouldn't have a white tongue. So just something to think about. These two things, I think, go hand in hand for regular self-care. You don't have to do this every day for the rest of your life. Like I said, I go in seasons because it gets annoying. I'm just going to be honest. Mouthwash is easy. Oil pulling is time consuming. It's just the reality. But the benefits that you get from it, you can't beat. You just can't beat. So I highly recommend that you try it. I want to know if you tried it. I want to know if this was really helpful for you. But it's just there's so much about oral health that I could go into, that I could dive into. But I thought that this was a great place to get started in showing yourself regular care that goes beyond those mani-pedi moments, like the typical self-care thoughts that we think about. I want you to be encouraged that you can actually give yourself care on the daily. Like, this is how you're going to fuel up. This is how you're going to fill your bucket. These little self-care tools that are going to start adding drops into your bucket. Drops and drips and maybe hopefully a little bit more of an onslaught of water into your bucket, so that you have more in your bucket to pour out into others. So, you might not notice for a while the amazing benefits of oil pulling. You might not notice that. You could do various different test markers where, like, if you do have high blood pressure and you get off your mouthwash and your oil pulling and see, how your blood pressure does over the course of 30 days. I highly recommend tracking. This is how we get details about our own bodies, right? It's tracking. Journaling is so important. But you might not notice for a while. But I really do believe that you will feel the difference. I really, really do. So again, I pray that this was helpful and fun for you today and informative. And I just want to leave you with this. Daily fatigue and foggy thinking is not normal. It's not. Just because something is common doesn't make it normal. Inside my free Foggy and Fatigued Freedom Over 40 blueprint, you will see just how simple and doable taking small steps daily can help you regain more energy and start thinking clearly again. Yeah, even at 3 p.m. And you are taking your first step in being your own best advocate for your health by listening to this podcast, by watching this video. Now take the second step by downloading the free blueprint so that you can begin putting these easy steps into motion. The link will be in the description. So grab your free Foggy and Fatigue Freedom Over 40 blueprint right now. And be sure you like and subscribe to this channel and share with a friend. You are a beautiful treasure, so treasure your wellness. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, my friend. I hope it challenged you. I hope it encouraged you and stretched you in some way. And if it did, would you stop right now and share this episode with a coworker, a biz bestie, a friend, or sister who has also been praying for a breakthrough in her whole health? Also, it would bless me so much if you would pop on over to Apple Podcasts and just leave me a quick review to let me know how much you are enjoying the content, and this really does help other women just like you to find the show. Treasured Wellness can also be found on Christian Mix 106 and over on YouTube. One more thing, come on over to our Facebook community, Holistic Health for Christian Women Over 40. I would love to see you there. Until next time, remember you are a beautiful treasure, and good health in body, soul, and spirit is your birthright.